أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
In the realm of Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 195.
وأنفقوا في سبيل الله ولا تلقوا بأيديكم إلى التهلكة وأحسنوا إن الله يحب المحسنين.
And spend in the cause of Allah, and do not throw yourselves with your own hands into destruction. And do good. Indeed, Allah loves the doers of good. In this verse, Allah Almighty commands the believers to spend money in order to raise His word and support His religion. After commanding jihad with the self in the previous verse, here He commands jihad with wealth. For jihad, just as it requires men, it also requires money. The Muslim warrior at that time would prepare himself with his own resources, weapons, provisions, and means of transportation. Without any salaries for leaders or soldiers, jihad was voluntary with both the soul and wealth, driven by the faith that instills in the hearts love for sacrifice and giving. However, there were many poor Muslims who longed for jihad in the cause of Allah and to raise the banner of the faith, but they did not have enough to equip themselves or provide transportation to the distant battlefields. They would go to the Prophet ﷺ asking for help, but when the Prophet could not find anything to transport them with, they would return to their homes, their eyes filled with tears because they were unable to participate. The noble feelings of these people were captured in the Quran with the words, "They turned away, their eyes overflowing with tears, sorrow, and they could not find anything to spend." For this reason, there were many Quranic and prophetic exhortations to spend in the cause of Allah, especially for equipping the warriors. The call to spend often accompanied the call to jihad in many verses, emphasizing the importance of material preparation to support this great duty. The noble verse also considers failing to spend as a form of destruction. As Allah says, "And do not throw yourselves with your own hands into destruction." By withholding expenditure for preparation in the fight, this weakens you and gives the enemies the opportunity to defeat you, leading to your destruction. Destruction here refers to withholding expenditure and abandoning jihad, for withholding money from the cause of Allah strengthens the enemy against the Muslims. Withholding expenditure in the cause of Allah results in the destruction of the soul due to stinginess, and the destruction of the community due to weakness and incapacity. Ibn Abbas said, "Destruction is not for a person to be killed in the cause of Allah, but destruction is withholding expenditure in the cause of Allah." The commentators mention the reason for the revelation of this verse as narrated by Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. He said, "This verse was revealed to us, the Ansar, when Allah honored Islam and the number of its supporters increased. Some of us secretly said to each other, 'Our wealth has been wasted, and Allah has honored Islam. So why not stay in our homes and repair what has been lost from our wealth?' Then Allah revealed this verse responding to what we had said by saying, 'And spend in the cause of Allah. And do not throw yourselves with your own hands into destruction. And do good. Indeed, Allah loves the doers of good.'" Thus, destruction was in staying with our wealth and repairing it, abandoning the fighting. The warning in this noble verse is directed at protecting the Muslim community from throwing themselves into destruction by neglecting the weak among them, abandoning jihad in defense of them, not preparing for their enemies, and failing to protect them from internal social evils and external enemy raids until they are destroyed. The prohibition applies to individual Muslims if they engage in actions that lead to their destruction without any material or moral benefit to their nation. Then the address in the verse elevates the believers from the station of jihad and spending to the station of excellence. When Allah says, "And do good, indeed Allah loves the doers of good." In the Quranic language, excellence, ihsan, has two meanings. The first meaning is perfection and excellence in action, performing acts of worship in their proper manner. This is reflected in the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when He says, "Indeed, we do not allow the reward of those who do good to be lost." And His saying, "Who made everything He created in the best way." The second meaning is to bestow upon others with kindness and generosity. The intended meaning in this verse is the first, as it pertains to perfection in worship and complete sincerity in it. Thus, excellence here refers to perfection and excellence in deeds. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded the believers, after ordering them to fight, to perfect all their actions. Allah loves the doers of good, and His mercy is close to those who excel. The rank of excellence is one of the highest levels in Islam. As the Prophet ﷺ said, "Worship Allah as if you see Him, for if you cannot see Him, He sees you." When the soul reaches this level, it performs all acts of worship perfectly, refrains from all sins, and observes Allah in everything, both small and large, in private and in public. This is the conclusion that follows the verses of fighting and spending, guiding the soul in the matter of jihad to excellence, the highest level of faith. And Allah knows best. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُّدَّكِرٍ